Welcome back to CryptosRus. I am George. We're all George. So, unfortunately, Bitcoin is not looking so good right now. It does seem like there is more dumping at the moment. Is the bottom near? And are we going to see a reversal sometime today? Let's discuss. Yesterday, now we have the ETF numbers from yesterday. It was very clear. Very clear, and I think whatever's happening now is also from these guys. If you look at this, man, yesterday we had over $1 billion of outflow from all the ETF funds. So it was clear yesterday during the market, Bitcoin was selling off. Bitcoin was selling off hard. And the alts tried to hold what they can, but they couldn't hold when Bitcoin was dumping so much. But I did mention in the stream that the alts were actually showing more strength than Bitcoin because these Wall Street guys, at least some, not all, I don't want to say all because there are some that are still buying, but a lot are selling off all of their Bitcoin ETFs along with their tech stock. Like Nvidia and Tesla and Google and Microsoft and everything else, right? They're just selling everything off at the same time. So that's definitely adding a lot of sell pressure to Bitcoin at this point in time. So, this goes back to my point. You got to take the bad with the good. Sometimes with these ETFs, when you have scary times like this, we have seen times like this before, like mid 2024, when Bitcoin fell down to the 50s and 40s, we saw massive outflows as well. So we have seen times like this before when Wall Street gets panicky and then they start selling. And, this is what happens. You get massive amount of sell pressure. But when it gets good, you get massive amount of buy pressure too. And keep in mind, even with all the selling right now, which just sucks. Yes, of course it sucks. There's still a lot more within. So this is still just a small portion of how much has been taken into the ETFs. But right now, it's very obvious that Wall Street is very, very afraid of basically what they consider risk-on assets. And they believe Bitcoin and Bitcoin ETFs are. At least some. Again, at least some, not everyone. Delphi Digital says Bitcoin has outperformed all cryptocurrency sectors this year. Well, this year has been only 2 months, but that is true. And it's really hard to outperform Bitcoin overall. Even my DCA portfolio proves that. Like, Bitcoin, this is why I talk so much about Bitcoin, why I say you got to have a huge amount of Bitcoin in your portfolio, because during strength times, during weakness times, Bitcoin is what you want for that stability and growth. And this cycle, especially, Bitcoin has been proving itself. Not that Bitcoin needs to prove itself, but it's proving to all the people that's been only holding alts how important Bitcoin is. But like I've been saying, we have seen many, many dips like this before. Many, many, many dips. It's just that we tend to forget. We go through so many of these. I don't really quite remember the last few big dips that we had. I really don't, because we go through so many of them. Even in the last few months, forget the last few cycles, even the last few months. In December, in January, we had multiple big dips, right? They're mid-bull market corrections. So whenever we have these corrections, you have a lot of people selling, panic selling, right? At a loss. That's not what you're supposed to do. 7 billion sent to exchanges being sold at a loss. So that's what a lot of the market makers, the whales, the people that are manipulating the prices, that's what they want. They want you to sell your crypto because there's someone on the other end that's buying. It's gladly buying at these discounted prices from you. right? So this is very, very, very unfortunate. That's why a lot of times we get all these corrections and dips out of nowhere, and sometimes they make no sense. You just got to think who benefits the most. The ones that want to pick up cheap Bitcoin from you. In fact, right now, there is this. Some analysts are saying what we're going through is just one of the formations of the Wyckoff pattern, right? And again, what is the Wyckoff pattern? It's a way for big players, whales, to accumulate more. It's a way for them to drive people out, make them panic sell so that the big players could accumulate at cheap prices. I just mentioned recently, Citadel is coming into this space. Out of all the times they could be coming in, they're coming in right now, right after the hack, right when we're having one of our major corrections. Take a second to think about that. And they want to be a liquidity provider. It's not like they're coming in to be a custodian. No, they want to be a liquidity provider, which requires them to have a ton of liquidity. So again, you got to think about the motives of some of these guys, right? Like, it's in their best interest to get you to sell so that they can buy at low prices. And you might be wondering, well, at what point would you say that the bull market is over, that this bull cycle has been invalidated? Well, according to this or some analysts, Bitcoin would have to drop to $49,000 for this bull market to end. And you know what? I looked at this. I graphed it out. And you know what? I think this is accurate because even, I was looking at the dip that we had in August, and I can show you guys during Q&A. We had a 30% dip when we went from 70 down to 49K back in August of 2024. I couldn't believe it, but it was a 30% dip. So even if we go 30% down from 109,000, that would bring us down to like 70K. So even if that happened, would that mean the bull run is over? No, because it has happened already. Last year, we had a 30% dip. We had many 30% dips in prior cycles. So why can't we have 30% dips this cycle? So yeah, even if we fell down to 70K, like 70, the bull market would not be over. It would suck. A lot of the alts would drain out even more, but the bull cycle wouldn't be over. But now if we fell down to 49K, you could have a case for that. But even then, I don't know. I would still believe. I would still believe that we will come back and this cycle's not over. I don't know. That's just me.